Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all of you mythical creatures out there with the days and thems, welcome to my humble abode. As you can see, you have entered the domain where mostly adventure starts. Though for Indonesians, the adventure begins with the scenic and cool people do it first. So I also welcome the pretentious douches that call themselves nerds and dorks for the D&D, since it is a new trope to be cool. Anyways, I'm happy to see that you're back in Raw Opinions. It appears that the small and humble following that I have deemed my content to be somewhat mildly entertaining? Maybe? Editors, tell me. Today, me, the all-powerful Dungeon Master Bambino, aka Asep Kocok, will guide you through a journey of tragedies, trials, tribulations, and a telltale tryhards with no triumphs. We are jumping into the game of nerds. Cool people becoming nerds because of Stranger Things. This episode is called Dorks and Douches. But in all seriousness, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the game, let's dive into what is Dungeons and Dragons. I'm gonna do this in a weird voice. Now let me just try something.
In Dungeons & Dragons, the players form an adventuring party who explore fantasy worlds together as they embark on epic quests and level up in experience. The Dungeon Master, also known as the DM, is the game's referee and storyteller. There's no winning or losing in D&D, or at least not in a way that is very conventional. The game itself pushes the boundaries of endless creativity and requires time and effort to play. Essentially, like the game of life itself.
Very poetic, huh?
You make choices, and it has its own follow-ups and consequences. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, it's up to one's imagination.
Now, back to me. Thanks to Gary Gygax, one of the pioneers of the game, it has developed into a game that made people commit to a higher level. It would push one's brain limit, emotional capacity, and moral compass to make the right decision. Usually, when played, you use a dice to determine your luck and chances in getting a good outcome. So for Indonesians, it's like gambling online, but with no money. So for all of you fucking addicts, this game could be the one for you. If you're not money oriented and like gambling itself, you can only win if you never stop playing. The gambling factor itself is one of many appealing factors in D&D. Since people tend to put their lives on the edge to, feel the thrills. They might as well be full-time gamblers with the way they are hoping to get that nat 20. What else could make you feel the same type of thrills? Maybe public fornication, or maybe even eating pork. You pretentious fucking zealots. Now, usually people who play D&D are the type of person who likes to dissociate themselves into a different persona. Imagine a character, right? Like we're talking about a character. Imagine a high elf paladin called Galadriel, while in real life your real name is Budiman and you work as a PNS. Or let's say that you are a half man, half dragon called Dunamis. And you're a warrior, you're a strong warrior, but your real name is Michael in real life, and you're a registered sex offender. Usually, they also do cosplays, making costumes to stand out in conventions as their own personal original character, or to shorten it, OC. It would take a lot of budget to make the good costume, instead of saving their money to get a better living. Some even design their characters into a better looking versions of themselves. So you could get that NPC Ussie from your dungeon masters, you kinky fucks, a lot of insinuated figures to take the attentions to you. As most of y'all have attention-seeking tendencies, you hoes. They also have figurines and built sets and terrains to make the experience more immersive and real. But at the end of the day, right? Anything to become like a paladin or a guy that has a sword. Come on. You tell me if you don't want to bring a sword around like you're a fucking knight. Like you could just pull that shit out and fight, right? Well, in this case, you can bring it around like old colonial days as a form of revenge for the natives against the Londos, which I personally think should be a storyline in the TTRPG or tabletop role-playing game. But anyway, about D&D's folklore, right? Before any Swifties attack me for no reasons, no, it's different from her folklore album. Personally, I like the red one. And D&D's folklore is a deep one for sure. And I'm here to shorten it for you, you TikTok generation Gen Z bitches. So you're welcome. So, D&D. They used to rely on Western and European lore, like of the knights, the kingdoms, the dragons and such. They fantasize and jack off to becoming knights of the round table, like, Arthur, Lancelot, blah, 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 while also hoping that they would encounter a sultry succubus and save the princess. Typical white knight situation like a lot of people do when it comes to like cosplayers, white knights. Yeah, I see you son of bitches. Now, a good example of a Western-based D&D storyline is if you look at the Lord of the Rings. Like, usually the flow of D&D goes that way, where different races come together into a group for one big adventure. Nowadays, like normal white people behavior, they expand to Asia to take their lore like samurais, Chinese koi dragons, katanas, Kirin and whatnot, as seen in Gary Gygax's book, The Oriental Adventures. Now, the game itself is a very expensive game. Why? Like, do you need to buy the CD? Do you need to have a console? No. It's a real-life game. Now, D&D requires a few items such as the diecast and the terrain for the DMs. Why do you need them? Because like the diecast represents your characters and the terrain, it explains your environment. And also one of many dices ranging from a 5-sided dice to a 100-sided die. It's a lot of things, like you need to roll for skills, roll for this, roll for that. There's a lot of rules in the game, which I'm not gonna go into because it's too much. While also preparing the character sheet so you can constantly take notes of your character's traits and keep track of their level ups on their way. But this game is also a good product that can be marketed easily to the public. With its inclusiveness, oh shit, gue salah nulis, with its anjir. With its inclusive nature and a familiar feel while playing, as you realize that they are similar to your RPGs or role-playing games. Your Genshins and bullshit. It opens up people to be more welcoming towards the game. Hell, it's even immortalized in one of the top games of 2023, Baldur's Gate, which also boosts the interest of D&D even more. But enough about white trash behavior. Let's talk about Indonesia. Recently, there has been a rise in interest in Dungeons & Dragons in our beloved Ibu Pertiwi, a campaign started by Indonesian artists consisting of Raditya Dika and Ariel Tatum. Yeah, I know, like those two, I don't see it together, but it happens. They began to take Indonesia's D&D scene by storm. Not to mention the virality of Western media with the Ex Machina series on Amazon, which is based itself from a D&D campaign started by Matthew Mercer, a contemporary D&D connoisseur. After the influence of Bang Radit and how the campaign is posted on YouTube for everyone to see, some of us begin to think, oh wow, D&D has finally entered Indonesia. Well, you're goddamn wrong, you pretentious hipsters. D&D has been in Indonesia for a minute now. It's just like many of our vices, like anime, mangas, toy and figure collecting, that you assholes made fun of in the early 2000s. D&D has become something of a staple of quirkiness and just overall being cool thanks to these motherfuckers. Now, the D&D community here has existed long before the scenic kids were on Tumblr with their finger stashes and listening to All Time Low with your emo bangs with the size of Zeus gambling debt. Around the early 2010s, they've established themselves as a group of inclusive people who has the passion and the time to commit to the arts of creative role-playing. See, a lot of the campaigns here in Indonesia sometimes revolves around Indonesia's national independence and sometimes a mixture of Southeast Asian lore applied into the game. There's actually a campaign or at least a lore based on Southeast Asia called the Gubat Banwa. Though there aren't exactly Dungeons & Dragons, but there are still a role-playing game that has similarities to the beautiful game. This, of course, piques the interest of these scenic-ass mofos that thought that this game is something niche, even though it's not. I guess it's the tendencies of those who call themselves indie or SKENA, in which thinking that something that's so unknown is cool and all that. Well, it's probably only because it has little to no interest at the moment. Well, guess what, bitch? You should probably get some perception check to see if you are self-aware of your own douchey self. Pretentiousness! Roll a dice, why don't you? And see if you get a goddamn nat 20. While the real ones who played the game before it was cool actually build up a proper foundation for the game to stand in Indonesia as it is. For the dorks, please, get your mental health in check, alright?
Stop it. Get some help.
Are you okay? Ever since you lost that character in that one time, you feel the need to make a tattoo out of it? Dude, it's just a character. Please, get some help.
Get some help.
Now, on a personal note, personally speaking, right? I believe that there is a lot of potential in Indonesian lore, if not ruined by these mofos, or promoted by these mofos. Depends on how you see it. Who think they know about playing D&D, right? They barely do. Hell, I barely do. That's why I want to learn. There's a lot of Indonesian lore that can be implemented, such as the Majapahit Empire, for example. Like, its storyline, it's interesting enough to be promoted as a campaign for people to actually play or create new altering history or future. Or even just simply using Indonesia's folklore as a basis for characters and bosses. Like, for example, like in D&D, they already have a few characters in mind. Like Naga, the big dragon. Sometimes in D&D, they are used as the big antagonist or the big boss. I mean, it's in the fucking name. Naga is a common word used in Southeast Asia to describe a dragon. And what about like in D&D, the Arakocra race? Yeah, I know, I said cock. It's not that deep, all right? They are based on a man and an eagle mixed into one. Well, guess what, motherfuckers? In Indonesia, we have the Garuda. Yeah, the ride that Mahabharata hero rode on his story. You know, the one that you watch in Prambanan. Which is also an airplane here. Garuda is very popular. And, you know, even the design itself, even the concept itself is the basis of our country's identity. But what about the unmentioned ones? Like, for example, Nyi Roro Kidul, the guardian of the South Sea. Imagine to have a boss like that. Or what about just using Indonesian ghosts that can be implemented in the storyline? Or even classes like Dukun, called as witch doctors.
Oh yeah, look at me go.
And what about Silat fighter? Like, they could be considered as a different kind of monk, like a subclass even, you know? A more mythical side. Now, sorry for nerding out. At the end of the day, D&D in Indonesia has a lot of potential for growth and is very inclusive at the same time, opening avenues for people to enjoy and explore their creativity. These scenic kids, though I have dismissed them for a minute, they actually help the growth of the game and the community by engaging those who are too lazy to look up what D&D even is. But they aren't too lazy to look up fucking porn or look up Sydney Sweeney. Get your hands off your dick! God fucking damn it. Well, and anyways, that's about enough, honestly, for today's episode. It's a lot, and it's been a mouthful, and honestly, kinda enjoyable to talk about. But this is only the beginning for me waging a war against these scenic and indie chuckle fucks in Indonesia. So sip your aren lattes, bitches, because this is only part one of many. Check out my account to tune into this immersive discussion about indie cringe lords, and I'll see you back in Raw Opinions. Check my YouTube, check my Instagram, my TikTok, everywhere. Everywhere you see Raw Opinions, open it up, give it a like. If you don't like it anyways, and give a shitty comment so I can respond to you motherfuckers. Alright? I guess I'll be seeing you on the next episode of Raw Opinions. Bye-bye.